Welcome to episode number 261, where I'm speaking with Mary Thompson about managing our mental health during the holiday season. This is the time where stress can naturally arise, so how do we prepare now to build up a buffer to that stress so we can enjoy the holiday season with good mental health? Please stay tuned. Welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host, Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, which is the ancient healing tradition from India. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. And if you like the content, please be sure to subscribe or follow the podcast so the new episodes will automatically download for you. Also, you may want to check out my private Elements community, which is away from social media. It's a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, to support each other, and to continue the conversation from the podcast episodes. Check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab. And I hope to connect with you there. Thanks for listening. And now here's a new episode. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm very happy to welcome back Mary Thompson. Mary is a heart-centered Ayurvedic educator who believes Ayurveda should be affordable, accessible, and adaptable to everyone's life. She weaves stories, humor, and compassion in her teaching. Through her career, she has worked with a number of Ayurvedic schools, spoken on a variety of podcasts, and presented at state and international conferences. She maintains an online practice of supporting Ayurvedic practitioners in their work with clients. Mary, it's great to have you back on the podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Colette. It's really wonderful to be back with you.
Well, I think the conversation we're going to have today is very necessary around this time of year. We're about to enter into holiday season. It's coming very fast. And in particular, our mental health around the holiday season. There can be a lot of stressors at this time. I was looking at that Ram Dass quote today, where it says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. Which is a great quote. And I think, it's not only stress around family gatherings, but also maybe economical stress at this time of year, travel stress. There's lots. And there's a lot of pressure put on people at the holidays. So I think having a discussion on maintaining mental balance around this time of year is a great topic to have right now as we enter into holiday season.
It really is. There's one thing that occurs to me. This season that we're coming up on is everything moves so quickly, right?
Yeah.
The October through January is just so fast compared to the rest of the year. And sometimes I think we get caught up in that. We get lost in it and we feel disoriented or ungrounded because everything's just so vata, so much happening, so many things that are possible to do and so many directions we can go.
Yeah, so true. We're in Vata season, and particularly in the US, because you start with Thanksgiving. Canada's had their Thanksgiving this the past couple of weeks. Then the US has Thanksgiving the end of November. And then it's this, slide into the holidays and so on. And you're right. There's a lot happening. And we know that our routines can go out the window, our self-care practices, our dinacharya. When we get busy and there's a lot going on, they can often take a backseat. So why is it important to maintain our practices during the holiday season? Let's get into the discussion and start with maybe why it's so important to maintain our practices, our dinacharya, self-care practices, our mindfulness practices during this time.
Right. I was going to say while you were speaking, isn't it funny that the things we need the most are the first things we let go of
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
start to experience stress?
Right.
That
Absolutely.
I remember a story about a person going to talk to their meditation teacher, and he says to his teacher, I don't have time to meditate for a half hour a day. And the teacher thinks for it and says, then I think you should meditate for an hour.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
just the idea of the less time we have, the more important it becomes to do that self care.
Yeah.
Another thing that came to mind was that when the world is going so fast, we need to have some place to ground. If we
Mhm.
live in alignment with nature, then we watch what's happening in the natural world during this season. You know, everybody's slowing down. The frogs are going into the mud. And this, of course, is the winter in the US and Northern Hemisphere. But
Mm.
we see that things are happening that are driving us into slowness. The
Mhm.
days become shorter. And so there's more darkness. And when we lived closer to the earth, this was the time where we pulled in. We kind of hunkered down and we're reflective. We, had less time in the waking day. So it became a natural way to slow vata down,
Yeah.
to slow down that energy.
Mhm.
And we've come away from that. We have electric lights, we've got cars, we've got things, nothing really changes in our life other than maybe our wardrobes
Yeah.
that come. And so our bodies don't get that time to go into a dormancy, to go into a stillness. And I know the question was about self-care practices, that we could think of our routines and our self-care practices as a mini dormancy, a mini
Mm.
time where we come within and start to take care to get ready for the next phase, to get ready for the day, to get ready for the night. And when we set those aside, we are always in activity. We're always in action. And the problem becomes, I like to refer to this as we're always doing. We're never
Yes.
preparing for, we're never recovering from, we're just go, go, go.
Mhm.
And this pulls from our physical strength, but it also pulls the rug out from under our mental strength.
Mm.
So it becomes important that when we're doing those self-care practices, and if you're a pitta, I often recommend, like, to my pitta clients, that while they're doing that morning massage, that instead of planning their day, they're thinking, I'm worth this. This is an important practice for me to really be productive today. This
Mhm.
is how I'm going to stabilize my mind and emotions for the day.
Yes.
We could think each moment we spend in self-care gives us hours of ability to go and do and be out in the world.
Yeah, very good point, because Pitta wants mostly every action to be purposeful, and sometimes self-care is not seen as purposeful. And it's so important for us to maintain these self-care practices in order to give us a buffer for the stress that's probably going to happen around the holidays. We can't cushion ourselves from away from stress. Stress is going to naturally happen. As you said,
Mm-hmm.
things speed up around the holidays. Everything gets a little hectic. But the more that we keep these self-care practices in place, the more of a buffer we have to that stress that's more than likely going to happen.
Right. And I think that stress is what occurs when our reality doesn't meet our desire or our
Mm,
expectation.
mm,
So I want to come all the way back around full circle to the first part about spending time with your family.
mm,
And I think from an Ayurvedic psychology perspective, the things that happen with our family dynamic, those are the karmas that we have to unravel.
mm.
Maybe I learned at my house that I should be seen and not heard. That's a great karma to unravel, that I have worth, I have worth, I have purpose, I can let this light shine. I don't need to keep stepping into someone else's belief that I should be seen and not heard. And maybe I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of that out in the world. I think that I've mastered that. And then I step back into the place where that lesson was drilled into me. It's like I go back to the family and they don't want to hear what I have to say. They don't really acknowledge what I'm doing or who I am. And I get to see how much I've evolved. I get to see how am I doing? Because eventually I don't have to buy into that story anymore. when I've resolved that karma. When I say karma, I don't think of some kind of retribution for something that we've done, but more a lesson that I need to learn. And so if I step into it and I own my own power and I come in with a balanced state of mind, then no matter what they do, it's not going to leave me with stress. I'm going to see that, oh my gosh, they're still living in that reality where I don't have worth, but I'm living in a reality where I have terrific worth. And so I can see that they are not in alignment with my belief system. And that's all it is.
That's a great point. And to remain balanced, to remain in that neutral place so you don't get caught up or taken on a ride by the story that they're playing out, whether, it's a story from the past. And I think when we understand the different dosha types, and in particular, the different mental gunas and the mental gunas of rajas and tamas, we can recognize that. Once we have awareness of that, we may recognize that in others, recognize in ourselves, of course, and recognize it in others. And so I believe just that knowledge alone can help us have more compassion, recognize what's happening in a situation, and therefore be able to not get caught up in that, not get caught up in that story that person is playing out because of their imbalances, and try to remain neutral in the situation. And I think that's part of just this understanding of the mental qualities of rajas and tamas and sattva.
That's a great segue there. I was thinking one thing we want to talk about is how would I know that I was mentally healthy around the holiday? And I think for me, mental health is where I can be in the present moment and I'm bringing my own authentic self into the present moment in an unapologetic way. I think that I leave the situation still feeling good about myself, because I think this disease that we have in mental situations is for vata. I feel bad about myself. I feel shame. I'm not good enough. I'm never going to learn. Somehow I need to go escape from this. Maybe that's escape into alcohol or whatever. Thinking of all the holiday parties that it just creates fear and anxiety. That if I have mental health and I can be in this moment and I can say, oh, I can make a choice. I can engage in this or I can remove myself from it. I don't have to let the situation define me. And if I'm vata, their mental health is a little bit different because they go into judgment, and that might be judgment around themselves, but quite often it's blaming and, these people are bad. I don't know why I get caught up in this all the time. It's, finding fault in everything. And so I'm not happy. There's just, it's always going to make me angry or dissatisfied. And Kappadosha gets caught up in melancholy. Why is it that this Christmas isn't like last Christmas? And like you had said, we have all these outside factors that are generating stress. The economy, the environment, politics, wars. And we want to be able to do what we can to be aware, but not to let these buffet our self-esteem and our mental health.
Yes. Yeah, very good point. And I think as well, sometimes with the holidays, you touched on this there, is that there can be rose-colored glasses put on when we're thinking of the time. And, we're thinking of the holiday movies and, oh, it's going to be magical. But everybody is coming in with their stuff, right? And if they're not aware, and they don't know how to maintain balance, if they're not practicing mindfulness, they may not be able to control that energy coming out in social situations. So I think as well, what's important is to have, of living life with the rose-colored glasses, beautiful thing, but we do have to accept reality as well. And everybody has their own stressors in their own life. And we're all coming together at this time of year where, as we said, stress arises, just because everything's moving so fast, but it's also accepting everybody for where they are. And I think that's where the stress manifests, like you said a moment ago, in other words, wanting a situation to be something other than what it is.
Me too. What I flashed on was this idea that everybody in the room is coming into that room with that same expectation versus
Yes.
reality
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity to be compassionate. I think of my own upbringing where, I would say my mom would just get, she was terrible around holidays. There was so much stress
Mm.
and it never met her expectations. It never satisfied her.
Ah.
And as an adult, I could see that I could have done things because you never would have as a kid, but I could have done things that would have supported her having her expectation met.
Mm.
I could have behaved differently, but I was so caught up in my expectation and my reality. So we were at loggerheads. There's just too much battling about, no, I want my reality to happen. No, I want
Yeah.
I want my
Yes.
expectation met.
Yes.
And I think that is where we have a problem with family is we walk into the room. I remember hearing one time that we're walking in the room and there's the people, but there's also the ghosts of the people of the past.
Right. Right.
That
Yeah.
we're not dealing with our mother. We're dealing with our mother from 10 years ago.
Yes,
And maybe,
exactly.
maybe I haven't resolved that. And so I think a big part of mental health is self-reflection,
Mm. Yeah.
is being able to say, oh, you know what? I'm still holding some of these resentments. What am I going to do about that?
Mm.
Because it's not what the other person can do about it. It's really what I can do to see the truth of the situation or see what my part was or in some way try to resolve some of these old issues before I step into the room and make new ones.
Absolutely. And like you're saying, self-reflection and then curiosity, because we can never control how other people are going to act in a situation. All that we can manage is ourselves. So, and accepting that as well. But I think that's a great way to look at it. When something is kicking off or something's being triggered, that you go, wow, look at that. There's something still there. And having curiosity around it again, rather than, shaming or blaming yourself, but go, what is that? Where is that coming from? What am I so triggered by? And using it as a pathway to look into something that's still hurtful for you.
Well, that's the thing. Everything can be just lessons to get deeper into knowledge of yourself. The two words that come to me are truth and boundaries. So it's like, I want to speak my truth. I don't want to say, you always do this, but more, I'm feeling frightened. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling triggered. And what I would like is, fill in the blank.
Right.
What's the boundary that we need to set? So I'm feeling attacked in this situation. And what I would like is for us to change the conversation. And to be able to ask for what you want. I think too often we step back into that family dynamic of, they get to do what they do and then I react the way I always react and then I leave feeling small.
Yes.
And distressed.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's true. Because going back, especially around family in the holidays, you're sometimes revert back to that old family dynamic. And it's so true. And I think boundaries is a great word, that you also put up boundaries that you need to in order to make sure that you're not going to be completely stressed out. Maybe manage your time with certain people, or like you said, just speak your truth. And when you say something like the words, I feel, nobody can argue what your feelings are. So just being very honest, but also, putting up boundaries if that's necessary.
And so since we're looking at this like from the Ayurvedic lens, one of the terms that I use a lot, if there's any of my students listening, they'll have heard me say this thousands of times, but it's like prepare, then do, then recover. That it's important in Ayurveda that we prepare, we get ready for whatever's coming up. And that's like doing those self-care practices in the morning. It could be including exercise in your day. It could be getting ready for the evening, getting ready for bed. We're always preparing for what's coming up. And in order to prepare, I have to think about what's that going to be like? What is coming up? So say I have a holiday party with my workmates. Then I can think, what usually comes up for me around this? Well, the foods aren't the foods I usually eat. So how can I prepare? Can I eat foods that I'm familiar with before I go? I can still enjoy some of these tastes that I'd really like to have, but I'm not counting on that those appetizers, finger food, holiday foods to be a meal.
Good idea.
Or if I think, I usually drink when I'm at these things, can I prepare for that by taking in enough water? Can I make sure that I'm really well satisfied fluidically so that I'm not looking for the alcohol to satisfy thirst? So I could think ahead to what are my stumbling blocks? Maybe it is a person. Oh my gosh, my boss is going to get me in a corner and talk to me about this project. I don't want to talk about it. So I can mentally prepare by thinking, if I see that situation happening, what can I do? Maybe I reach out to a work friend and say, if you see the boss talking to me, would you come and interrupt because I don't want to talk about the project tonight? Something where you can think and plan ahead. I think preparing is so important for our mental health because it puts us in power.
Yes.
So that we're not just stepping into the situation, and then go and do and have as much fun as you can possibly have, because it's only going to be for a few hours out of your life that you're in this situation. And you can look for, while you're in the midst of it, what do I want from this? What do I want to get from this? Do I want to be able to have meaningful talks with some people at work? Do I just want to play and dance? It's like, think about, what is it I want? Because you deserve what you want. And so how can I make what I want happen? Because I think so often we feel unhappy because we've become a victim in a way of what's going on. That we've waited, oh, here comes that person. Now I'm stuck here for half an hour. But if I've thought ahead of time of how to get out of it, now I'm in power. And the other part is then, what can I do to recover from this? So I've gone and I've prepared as much as I can, and I've gone and done the event. Now what? This is a part that often drops off the map, is how do we recover from the things we've done? See, I did have that alcohol. Make sure I'm going to drink more water. If you've got some milk thistle on hand, or you do something so that you're not going to be so dehydrated the next morning. Maybe you ate some of those foods, you take some spicy tea, a ginger tea or something to help you with digestion of those foods you're unfamiliar with. So you can recover from the activity that you engaged in and get back to ground. And this is self-care. It all comes down to self-care.
I'm going to jump in here for a moment, and I agree with what Mary says. It does all come down to self-care, managing our physical and mental health, keeping our body and mind in balance, and preventing disease comes down to what we do day in, day out. And as Mary said, preparation is key. So managing our daily self-care practices is paramount to our overall health. And I want to let you know, if you want support on implementing daily self-care practices, then you may be interested in my online Daily Habits for Holistic Health program. It's a self-paced 28-day program, and the objective is to educate and support you through the process of implementing daily habits and routines to help you achieve holistic health and to really prevent imbalances and create great awareness. You'll learn how to structure your day and how to flow with the circadian rhythms rather than going against them and suffering. You'll learn about the mental gunas and the qualities of sattva, rajas, and tamas, and how to maintain positive mental health. You'll learn about the foundations of Ayurvedic healing, the principle of opposites, and how this simple principle can help you to become your own healer. And I'll also talk about connecting to your true nature and your intuition to help guide you in living a positive and fulfilling life. So if you're looking for support around implementing these daily self-care practices, then check out my Daily Habits for Holistic Health program. You'll find that link in the show notes, or just visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com/programs. Okay, let's get back to my conversation with Mary. Excellent. I think they are great points. And I also love that you say, Mary, is also have fun at the event. I think that's important. And I say this frequently, but I think it's important to repeat that sometimes there may be rigidity around these certain way of doing things, or, eating a certain way, or getting to bed at a certain time. It's okay to let go and have fun at these events. And in fact, if we're too rigid about our daily structure, this may bring stress around these holiday parties. And so just letting go, enjoying it, know you'll be able to get back on to your routines the following day. I think that's important to point out as well, that just to let go, relax, have a drink if you want to have a drink, eat some of the festive food. And like Mary said, those great points, hydrate in advance, make sure you're well hydrated, and make sure that you have some food before you go. So those party foods are not your main meal, but you can enjoy little bits of them. So I think that's important. Have fun, let go of any stress around things being a certain way.
I think too, maybe we could treat our family like a group of toddlers. That with toddlers, it's the distraction. So if something's happening that you're not feeling comfortable with, what could you have in your back pocket?
Right.
A conversation's not going the way that you want it to go. And you say, I'd like to talk about something else. Has anybody seen any of these holiday movies? Every year I have to watch It's a Wonderful Life. What about you? What are some movies you like to watch? Having those conversation starters in a back pocket to kind of shift something away from an uncomfortable topic.
Yeah.
Where you say, and you can own it. I don't really want to spend this party talking about whatever that, fill in the blank, uncomfortable conversation is. I would really like to talk about the season itself. And this is what I really like about this season. What do you like? And if somebody tries to drive you around to it, now they've already crossed your boundaries. So you can just say again, no, I'm not going to go there. Tonight's a night about having fun and reconnecting and really celebrating the chance that we have to be together. Because it's the truth and boundaries, right? It's just saying to the person, you don't have to step into somebody's story if you don't want to.
So true. That's a great point. Just don't engage. Don't go for the bait.
Because it might be bait around, because then you're going to say, you always bring this up and now we've got it. Now we got you because we've got you in the fight, and we can bring up all those times that you've disappointed me and all those times I've disappointed you. And pretty soon I'm going home feeling miserable, where I can just say, I'm going to break that pattern. And it comes from self-awareness. I'm aware of my pattern. So because I'm aware of my pattern, I have the power to break it. And I think what self-care practices does is it puts a gap in between a situation and my reaction to it.
Yes.
So I get to observe what's going on. So I always had this rule with myself that if I feel a knot in my stomach, I have to tell somebody I feel a knot in my stomach. I'm not blaming them for it, but maybe I could say this conversation, I'm feeling uncomfortable with this conversation. I'm just, like we said earlier, I'm just owning my feeling.
Yeah.
And if they push, then you could say, I'd like us to switch to a different conversation. I'm happy to keep talking with you, but not about this. And that's hard. It's hard because it's a different thing to do, especially stepping into the family where you have an established dynamic. So another part of recovering from an event to maintain your mental health might be reaching out to a friend ahead of time and saying, can I call you when I'm leaving my family's house and just kind of rant for a while or debrief or just tell you what happened? So that while something's going on, you can think, I will talk to my friend about this.
Great.
Yeah. Just so you feel there's someone in your corner that has your back and really wants you to feel good at the end of the night.
Taking a moment out here to bring you a word from the sponsor, Mount Madonna Institute. The mission of Mount Madonna Institute is to educate and empower future health professionals. Their Level 1 Ayurvedic Health Counselor program is the perfect entry into professional Ayurvedic training, and it is the gateway to becoming an Ayurvedic yoga therapist. The Health Counselor training focuses on preventive and mind-body healthcare. Classes are held in person and online. This program starts January 2023, and you can receive $100 off this program if you register before November 30th using the discount code ELEMENTS22. See the show notes or visit mountmadonnainstitute.org for further details. And Mary, what I think it would be just good to discuss here is the mental qualities, the mental gunas of Rajas and Tamas in particular, and maybe just recognizing some of the traits of those. Again, not to judge people, but just to have awareness. And again, awareness allows us to make decisions on how to navigate dealing with people who may have these mental imbalances.
Yeah. So one thing I think about with them, I don't know if you're a Ted Lasso fan. I'm a big Ted Lasso fan. But he has a line in Ted Lasso where he says, be curious, not judgmental.
Ah,
And I think if I approach people while they're talking with curiosity more so than judgment, I can get some ahas. I might be more interested in talking to some of these tamasic and rajasic people because I'm looking at them through that lens of let me understand what's
yeah.
happening here.
Yeah, exactly.
And then with tamas, this is a season of the year, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, because this is Vata season here. It's a different season in the Southern Hemisphere. But it's the time when nature goes tamasic, right?
Mm.
It's as far as if we think about tamas as going within and tamas as being still and kind of inert. You know, bears would go into hibernation, the frogs would go into the mud, the trees go into their dormancy. And that's kind of what tamas is. It's a reaction to this excessive movement around us is to go into the tamas. Now, when we say tamas as far as a mental state, I often think there was a thing, I was in a class with Robert Swoboda, who is an Ayurvedic teacher, and he had said, a person in a tamasic mindset is like having a wind up robot. And you wind the robot up and it begins to walk and it walks into a wall and it backs up 2 or 3 steps and it walks back into the wall and it backs up 2 or 3 steps and walks back into the wall. And it never changes its patterning because it's unaware of its patterning.
Mm.
And so the people we're talking to might be so caught up in the history, they're unaware of themselves and how they react to people or how they're perceived and things like that. So these people are kind of stuck.
Yeah. Caught
And
up in the
they may,
past, maybe.
mm-hmm, right. And they try to force you to be in that same
Mm.
past,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're going to react the same ways we've reacted.
Mm.
And when you move away from tamas and you move into the present moment, then you're better able to react in ways that are appropriate in the present moment or necessary in the present moment. One of the things I think about with people who are in a tamasic mental state is that they're unaware of the fact that they're caught up in this mental state. And they think that anything different, any change is either unnecessary or they will have stronger words for why they don't like it. You know, that they're going to just be harsh about it. Um, I find it difficult to maintain conversations with people like this because they really don't want to hear what you have to say. Because unless they reach out to you, I usually joke about if you are talking to a tamasic person, just offer them food and walk away.
Mm.
It's kind of like they're not going to, you can predict already what they're going to talk about, what their opinion's going to be, and they do not want to hear any other opinion. It's like you can't really have a conversation with them. You'll have a lecture.
Right. Right.
And what's so frustrating to us is that we want them to have a conversation, but they're not in that mind space where they are capable of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to talk, not listen. And so I think there's a lot of people in our families that fall into this, and we may have that uncle or that cousin that just, it's like, oh my gosh, that person's going to be there. And so it's recognizing that you're not going to change their view. You know, I think politics is a big thing in the US right now. And so it's, you know, recognizing they don't really want you to talk about why you think their view is wrong. They would love to talk about why you're wrong, but you don't have to engage with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to make it really tough. A rajasic mind is going to be more active. And most of us have more of this rajasic mind. Fortunately, the spectrum between sattva, rajas, and tamas, the spectrum between sattva and tamas is more like a bell curve. So most of us are rajasic. Some of us are rajasic with a good degree of self-awareness. So we tend to think, you know, oh, I got to take care of myself before this party. But we're rajasic enough that we don't always do the thing that we think we should do. You know, it's like we're not totally in that sattvic, clear, present, aware mind state.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us are more rajasic going towards tamasic, that we're active, but we like to kind of cultivate some times that we're still or the mind is still. And so we might be a little bit it's like I'm open to your ideas, but I still think they're wrong. Kind of mindset.
Uh-huh.
So I think when
Okay.
we talk to Rajasic people, we tend to feel exhausted
Mm.
because they could jump topics really quickly. They may be very passionate about the thing they're passionate about, but maybe it's not your passion, so it's not going to spark interest in you so much. Um, I think with the Rajasic people, it's almost like the distraction we want to do is like, hey, let's go talk about this thing. Just direct their attention and they'll bring that energy of Rajas into the new topic. I think the holidays are really Rajasic, very, very Rajasic. And the more activity we get into, I think the more the body actually craves tamas. We crave the quiet and the still and the kind of introspective. Or we can be introspective if we bring the sattva to it. So it's that idea. Like I think when we talk to Rajasic people, then we have most of us. That's most of us out there in the world. And so we want to make sure I'm clear about my own stuff in the present moment so that I don't get drawn into someone else's drama. And I think Rajas is a lot of drama.
It is a lot of drama. It can be intense and fiery. And I think the key word there is the present moment awareness. And it can be easy to get caught up and triggered, but the more present moment awareness we have, again, the more we can see what's arising, we can see where it's potentially going. And so how do we maintain that awareness in the moment?
Oh, that's a trick, isn't it?
Yes.
I think initially for us, because most of us are Rajasic, I think initially we simply want to catch ourselves being out of the moment.
Mm. Yeah.
So the more often I can catch myself going, whoa, I am totally caught up in this.
Mm.
Now I'm in the present moment, being aware of myself, being caught up in this. You don't have to shift anything. It's just becoming aware of it. I think of early meditators, new meditators, that they'll talk about they're watching the mind. Ooh, what am I going to have for dinner? And now I'm thinking about dinner. Oh, wait a second. I wasn't supposed to think about dinner. I'm supposed to come back into stillness. And then I'm good and I'm breathing and I'm doing great. No, I think I need to get some milk. It's like we trail off. But the difference is being able to see myself trailing off and go, oh, look, I trailed off into this. No judgment. It's not a bad thing that I'm not in the present moment. It's just I got caught up in my own fantasies about the future, or I got caught up in my own memories of the past and projecting my past into this moment. I mean, boy, psychology is a tricky subject because there's so many layers that we have that we carry into it. So I think the first thing would be to catch yourself leaving the present moment and bring yourself back and become that observer. Sometimes, I think especially at holiday parties or something like that, we want to just be caught up in it. And that's okay. We don't have to always be, we're not monks. We don't have to always be, I think even monks would say that they don't always have to be getting caught up in things as well. But I think the difference is, how can I land back? If what I'm getting caught up in is leaving me feeling bad about myself, is leaving me feeling angry, is leaving me feel depressed, then I gave away the present moment to somebody else.
Right.
Because my present moment shouldn't have that. And then the more often I look for that, the more I am able to stay in that mode of, okay, I see what's happening here. And it's kind of a magical thing when you can do that, when you can recognize that when someone's talking to you, that they are bringing themselves here. They're not bringing a reflection of you. And so say they're angry about something. Now, what I found is if someone's angry and I apologize, it often doesn't do anything for their anger. Or if I get angry, it certainly doesn't do anything for their anger. It just makes us both angry. But when I observe and I say, I see you're really angry about this. Do you want to talk about it? You can watch the energy of the anger become, oh, problem solving. We can fix this. That's present moment. I don't have to go, I'm bad, I need to apologize, or you're bad and I need to fight you. But it could just be, I see that you're having an experience.
Right.
Do you want to talk about it? And then sometimes I'm thinking, especially if I was in a group at a party and we're all very excited about something, I don't want to stop and say, hey, we're feeling excited. Let's examine this.
Yeah.
I could just feel that excitement. The things I want to stop are the ones that make me feel frightened, angry, or sad.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And like you said earlier, listen to the feelings in your body, because your body will often sense the energy, sometimes even before we have the awareness of it, like that knot in your stomach, that just feeling uncomfortable. Be aware of that, that the energy or the sensation around you is not making you feel comfortable, and, respect it. But I also think it's good what you're saying there is to acknowledge the emotions that are arising. You don't have to get into, a big chat about it, but also just acknowledge, like, I see you're upset by this. We're at a party, so maybe let's bookmark this and come back to it at another time.
Yeah. What we do the distraction. I see you're upset about this. Let's talk about something different, or let's go see about getting something to eat.
Yeah.
And sometimes people do things at parties. I'm thinking of alcohol that's going to fuel kind of those types of conversations. And that makes it tricky.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with everyone. You're not the only one there who's facing the fact of, am I enlightened? I got to go hang out with my family. But everyone there is doing that. Everyone thinks that their lives are pretty okay until they step in a room with their family.
Right.
And well, I think it's a sad commentary on families. It's also where our lessons began.
Yeah.
And so have we learned that yet? I think I enjoy my brothers more as I get older, because I've resolved a lot of my feelings around mistreatment in my childhood or anything that went on. And I don't look at them through that lens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas before I might have been angry at them or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And it all goes back to that step one that you talked about, preparation and preparing for this, having compassion for others, knowing everybody has their own stuff. But the preparation is really important. And what we do day in, day out, outside of these holidays, outside of these get-togethers, that's what's going to give us a buffer in those moments when stress arises. What we're doing day in, day out, 80% of the time in our life, to make sure that we can bring ourselves into a sattvic place, manage stressors and so on. So maybe let's talk a little bit more about that preparation and help people get set up for this holiday season that's coming up. So those day in, day out practices that we talk about, the mindfulness practices, if we could talk a little bit about what will help us in preparing for this holiday season, which is just weeks away.
Okay. Yes, it's coming up.
Yep.
So I think one of the things is looking at morning routines. What is it I do before my day starts? What is it that I do to take care of myself? For my Ayurvedic daily routines, I include sense care. So I'm doing an abhyanga, which is a self massage. And this is just with a little bit of oil in the morning before my shower. And it could be a dry brush. It could be a real quick, just warming up my hands a little bit and kind of rubbing a little bit of oil into my body. Or it could be slow, that I take my time with it. And there's lots of videos on the internet of that practice if you wanted to see what it is. But I find that's one of the best ones for this season, which is Vata season coming up again in the Northern Hemisphere. It just really pacifies the nervous system.
Yeah.
It helps to move the lymph and support the immunity. But it also, I think, is like putting a blanket around those nerve receptors and just says, I'm protected. Kind of putting on armor to go out and face the day. Then, like for my eyes, I just rinse them with water. For my ears, I put just a drop of oil in. So just taking care of all the senses, because they're going to be out there in the world. Most of us are doing mouth care, right? You're brushing your teeth, flossing your teeth, hopefully scraping your tongue. But it's just getting ready for the day, making sure everything is cleaned and ready. Another practice that I think is really beneficial is doing some form of exercise. And that could be a walk in the morning, especially like a walk out in the sunlight is going to be really beneficial for aligning us with nature and getting us kind of into our bodies and into this relationship that we have with the world. Some form of breath work, which you can do while you're walking, you're breathing. but just do some conscious breathing, and then some form of introspection. Now, yogis would call this doing asana, pranayama practice, and meditation. But those of us who aren't yogis, it can be exercise. It could be conscious breathing, just being aware of my breath for a time, doing some full exhaling so I get all that carbon dioxide out, and then spending some time in contemplation. And that could be journaling. It could be just thinking about the day, just being quiet and reflective. It just allows us to face the day physically and mentally ready. And now we're better off as far as being in the present moment because I've taken care of, I'm getting ready for this present moment. And then I go and I enjoy the present moment, whatever's coming up. After, in the afternoon, I might look at recovering a little bit. So I'm still doing prepare, do, recover. So the recovery in the afternoon, if I've had a really active day, I'm going to slow down for a bit. Maybe that means, again, going reflective. It could be doing some restorative asana practice, taking another walk, a gentle walk, taking a nap. Depends on how active my day has been. If my day has been really still, I haven't been doing very much, maybe this is a time to get active, to get moving. Because I'm just saying, I'm just recovering from whatever it is I've been doing. If I've been doing go, 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 now is the time for stillness. If I've been doing still, now is the time for movement. So just kind of working against what I've been doing. And now I get ready to prepare for the next part of the day. So it's kind of like in the morning, we get ready for the day by taking care of the senses and taking care of the body, the breath, and the mind. In the afternoon, I recover the energy of the body either by slowing it down or speeding it up, depending upon what I've been doing. And then I have my evening. At the end of the evening, I get ready for bed, making sure that I'm doing those self-care practices again, not necessarily as many as I did in the morning, but I am getting ready so that I'm prepared for a wonderful night's sleep. This brings up a really good point for self-care for the holidays is getting enough sleep.
Yes, exactly.
That's kind of a struggle. Lots of people are struggle with getting enough sleep because we're stimulated so much all during the day. When we're under stress, we have so much stress hormones in the body, it interferes with our ability to sleep deeply. So there are practices, mostly meditation practices, that can really help to restore our kind of stable sleeping practices. But I think too, it's like looking at our day and saying, how much of my day am I stressed? What can I do about it? It's almost like we've got several different podcasts rolled into one. So I think there's this idea of what can I do just about general stress? There's the holiday stress and mental health, but there is my daily stress and mental health. And so if every day I'm in fear, worry, anxiety, or I'm in anger and frustration, or I'm in sadness and depression, then my stress level is too high every day, and the holidays are just going to bring it all to the surface. So I think what I can do now in leading up to the holidays is become self-aware. What can I do to love and nurture myself? How would I treat myself if I was if I was my best friend? How would I be talking to myself differently? How would I be treating myself differently? Or if I was a child? I remember going to a self-defense class one time, and it was a women's self-defense class. And the instructor said, okay, you're walking down the street and someone jumps you. What do? And everyone's saying, I'd scream, I'd yell, I'd run away, I'd do all these kind of passive approaches. He said, okay, now I want you to imagine you're walking down a street and you see someone accosting a child. What do? I was going to go, I'd go up there and I'd start hitting them and I would attack and I would do everything I could to get the child safe. And it was just really an interesting moment to recognize that we would defend that child. We would protect that child. We would love that child. But when it comes to myself, I might often neglect myself or put myself into stressful situations. Or can you even imagine if those voices in your head, if you said those things out loud to somebody else, the times when you're hitting your head going, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid. Would you go to a child and hit them on the head and go, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid? I hope not.
Yeah. Very good. Very good points there, Mary. And all these can really help us in, like you said, preparing for the holidays and then using just our breath practices, just a deep belly breath. You don't need to know any specific breath practice, but just using the breath to bring you into the present moment if you find you're getting triggered, and just to give you a moment to get some space, and using that breath to calm the nervous system. And that's the fastest, simplest way, especially when we're in the moment getting triggered, is just to take some time away and just breathe into it and, acknowledge what's happening. And then just like maybe now is not the moment to react to that, but just again, like you said, to have the curiosity and maybe bookmark it to come back to that at another point and see what lesson is there for you to learn from this situation. But yeah, the breath is just so important. It's the easiest, fastest way we have to bring us back to the present moment and just to calm ourselves.
Yes, definitely. And it reminds us, it gives us that space. So in that, when we're trying to come back to the present moment, it gives us that space to be in this moment.
Yes, exactly. Fantastic tips there, Mary. And, all these, again, just practicing these day in, day out, will really build up that buffer, bring you into a good place, physically, mentally, feeling sattvic, so that you're entering into the holiday season feeling calm and clear with good energy. So the more that you can prepare, as Mary says now, the better that holiday season will be, and that you will be able to manage the emotions better.
That was a wonderful summary.
Well, Mary, thank you so much. It's great to cover this. I think it's everyone, looks forward to the holidays, but there's always in the back of our mind going, oh dear, I hope it's going to be okay. And the more that, like we said, we can prepare, the better off we'll be. So Mary, can you tell us a little bit about where people can find out more about you and your work, please?
There's an interesting thing. I just wrote a blog post recently on the prepare, do, recover kind of idea.
Oh, fab.
And so they will find it on a webpage that's brand new called theayurvedicapproach.com.
Great.
So that's the Ayurvedic approach, got the little V in front of it. And that's my new gig, is I am trying to create a practitioner support website for Ayurvedic health counselors and Ayurvedic practitioners that will put some of my materials out there for them, but it's open, the blog and everything is open to the public. And I think they'll like the article on the prepare, do, recover. And I've got some upcoming things I'm writing about sattva, rajas, tamas. So they aren't up there yet, but if they keep checking in, they'll find them.
Fantastic. Great. And I'll put that link to the ayurvedicapproach.com in the show notes as well. Mary,
wonderful.
You're a natural teacher. Former life, you were a teacher in school, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it shines through. You're definitely putting your skill set, your natural skill set to great use. And I always appreciate our conversations, and you always break it down so well and give lots of great tips. So thank you so much, Mary. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
So much. Thank you so much, Colette. I agree. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yes. Let's put another date in the calendar, and enjoy the holidays, Mary.
Oh, thank you. You too. Start working now so you can enjoy those holidays later.
Exactly. We'll all get in prep mode now, and we'll have a wonderful holiday season. Thanks again, Mary. Take care. I'll chat to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Mary, and please check out the show notes for all the links mentioned. If you're interested in my online Daily Habits for Holistic Health program, you'll also find that link in the show notes, and all my other online services as well. Or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. If you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them. And if you haven't already subscribed or follow the podcast, please do so, and the new episodes will automatically download for you. If you would like to rate and review the podcast, I would really appreciate that wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you will find me on social media under Elements Healing and Wellbeing on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.